I came home from the gym one evening and walked into the kind of silence that doesn't settle, it waits. Ashley wasn't home yet, which wasn't unusual for a Thursday. She had her weekly wine night with her bridesmaids, a tradition that began with the engagement and somehow became non-negotiable. I went through the usual routine: shower, protein shake, mindless scrolling, and ended up doing laundry, because why not? There's something calming about order when you suspect everything else is falling apart. I opened the hamper in our shared bathroom, dumped the contents into the basket, and reached for the towel she always threw over the edge. That's when it happened. I pulled it back and saw it, something small, something completely out of place, a wristband. Not mine, not hers. Neon green, slightly frayed, with the name of a strip club printed across it in curly gold letters like a teenage girl's diary font. Eden's Denver. It wasn't just the object, it was the implication. Ashley doesn't do clubs. Ashley judges people who do. She once said strippers were just sad girls pretending they're in control, and now I was holding a silent contradiction to her entire moral persona. I didn't say a word. I didn't toss it in the trash or storm into the kitchen demanding answers. I just stared at it, its tacky gloss catching the bathroom light, mocking me with its cheap little smile. I laid it flat on the counter next to her makeup bag and looked at it like a crime scene. This wasn't dramatic. This wasn't movie level. It was subtle, and that's what made it dangerous. A woman like Ashley doesn't forget something like this. A woman like Ashley doesn't accidentally let something from Eden's Den hitchhike its way into our bathroom unless she's trying to pretend nothing happened at all. But here it was, tucked under the towel she knew I'd move eventually. It felt like a breadcrumb left by someone arrogant enough to believe I wouldn't notice. Or worse, would notice and do nothing. There wasn't a scent, no lipstick smudge on a collar, no guilty behavior or sudden spike in affection. Just a strip club wristband, carelessly hidden in plain sight. It reminded me of that thing serial killers do, returning to the scene, leaving behind a signature, daring someone to see the pattern. And maybe that's what this was, the first careless move from someone who thought they'd already won. I sat on the edge of the tub, wristband in hand, and let the quiet fill the space between what I wanted to believe and what I already knew. Ashley was always calculated, but never subtle. She posted everything, narrated her life in captions, curated every moment. So this invisible little lie hiding in plain sight, was her first real slip. Not a mistake. A fracture. And the thing about fractures is they spread fast. When she came home an hour later, I was sitting on the couch, calm, scrolling through my phone like any other night. She kissed me, dropped her purse on the counter, and headed straight for the shower. Nothing in her voice. Nothing in her eyes. And still, everything was different. I watched her walk past, humming something from her bachelorette playlist, and felt the air stretch thin between us. I didn't mention the wristband. I didn't even move it. I wanted her to see it. I wanted her to decide whether to acknowledge it or pretend it wasn't there. That would tell me more than any confrontation ever could. She didn't bring it up. Didn't flinch. 30 minutes later, it was gone from the bathroom, like it had never existed. And that's when I knew she wasn't just hiding something. She was confident I'd never look for it. She thought she could lie to my face, and I'd nod along, smile, play the role she'd cast for me. The safe guy. The stable one. The he'll never leave type. She'd mistaken quiet for weak. And that's the thing about women like Ashley, they don't see the storm until it's already overhead. So I started planning, not revenge. Confirmation. The kind of confirmation no apology can erase. Because once you've seen the crack, you stop admiring the painting. You start preparing to burn the whole gallery down. The days that followed were like watching a glass of water ripple with no wind. Everything looked normal from a distance. She still laughed at dumb TikToks, still asked what I wanted for dinner, still kissed me on the cheek in passing. But it all felt like stage lighting, bright, controlled, artificial. Like someone had replaced my fiancée with a woman wearing her skin and mimicking her habits. The smile stayed, but the softness behind it was gone. She used to look at me like I was home. Now she looked through me like I was furniture she couldn't quite bring herself to replace yet. Ashley had always been busy. She worked in marketing and loved the chaos of her job, late meetings, last-minute pitches, surprise client dinners. That wasn't new. What was new was the silence between us, stretched so tight I could hear it hum. She'd started calling everything a boundary. She said we needed space to grow before the wedding. She'd always been into self-help stuff, but now it was more like therapy speak armor. Phrases that sounded enlightened but meant nothing. And not once, did she use the word, us. I'd walk into a room and she'd flinch, not visibly, not dramatically, just this tiny tension in her shoulders like I'd interrupted something. Her phone was always face down now. She'd never been secretive before. She used to toss it on the couch and forget it for hours. Now it was surgically attached to her hand, or if it was out of sight, it was definitely locked. She changed her password too. She didn't tell me, and I didn't ask. Not because I respected her privacy. Because I was learning, watching, waiting. One night I got home early. She didn't hear me come in. I moved quietly, the way you do when you're not sure what you're about to see. She was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, phone tilted at an angle, whispering. Not laughing, not flirting, whispering. Like whatever she was saying didn't belong in the light. I stood in the hallway and listened to words I couldn't make out, tone I couldn't misread. Her voice was soft, warm, gentle in a way she hadn't been with me in weeks. Then she said something that made my stomach lurch, not the words themselves, but the voice she used to say them. That voice belonged to someone in love. It hadn't been directed at me in months. She ended the call when I made a noise on purpose, dropped my keys on the entry table. She jumped, overly cheerful, came to kiss me hello. I asked who she was talking to. She didn't miss a beat. Said it was Becca, her maid of honor. Said they were stressing over bachelorette stuff. Then she said something strange. She said, "You'll love what we've planned for me." Not, "You'll love what we've planned." Not, "What we're doing together." What they'd planned for her. I smiled and nodded like it didn't hit me like a nail through the ribcage. The more I watched, the more it unraveled. She started forgetting things, small things, but meaningful ones. She asked me what kind of cake I wanted at the wedding even though we'd picked it out together 2 months ago. She called my mom by the wrong name once in conversation. And one night, she asked if I still had my old dog from college, a dog that died 3 years ago, a dog she buried with me, tears on her face and dirt on her hands. It was like pieces of our shared life were falling out of her memory, replaced by something else. Someone else. Then came the almost moment, the false explosion. I was doing dishes late at night while she showered. Her phone buzzed once on the counter. Just once. And something in me snapped. I picked it up, flipped it, saw a preview message. The sender was saved as Liam Work. The message read, "Same room next weekend? Or do you want something fancier this time, gorgeous?" I stared at it like it might rearrange itself into something innocent. I didn't unlock the phone. I didn't take a screenshot. I didn't confront her when she came out of the shower wrapped in a towel, humming like a woman with no weight in her chest. Instead, I placed the phone gently back on the counter and dried my hands. Because this wasn't the moment. This wasn't the climax. This was just confirmation of what I already knew. She was gone. Whatever part of her had been mine was now rented by someone who didn't even bother to change the sheets. I didn't speak. I didn't accuse. I just watched. And that's when the real plan began. It was the bridesmaid group chat that did it, not a message I read, but one I wasn't supposed to see at all. Ashley had left her laptop open in the living room, logged into everything, and gone out for a last-minute dress fitting. Normally, I wouldn't snoop, not because I'm noble, but because I never had to. Ashley wasn't sloppy. She lived her life in polished layers, curated to perfection, always one step ahead. But this time, she forgot to close the tab. Chrome was still open, her messages synced, and in between Pinterest boards of floral arrangements and honeymoon resorts, one browser tab blinked with a new notification. The title read, "Woman Dancing Bacchus Clinking Glasses," the group chat she shared with her bridal party. I didn't click it. I didn't have to. Because the message preview was already visible. It was from Becca, her maid of honor. It said, "Tell Liam he better bring the good stuff this time. You deserve more than sweaty back seat before vows." That was it. No denials. No space for misinterpretation. A full sentence of rot with her name on it. I stared at it for a long time, not reading it over and over, just memorizing the temperature of the room when my life changed. The radiator clicked softly in the background, a commercial played muted on the TV, and outside, snow fell like it had no idea it was landing on a battlefield. That's when everything in me shifted. No more theories. No more clues or shadows or speculation. I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. I was holding a confession signed by omission. And it was beautiful, in a way, clean, sharp, final. I closed the laptop. I didn't screenshot anything. I didn't text anyone or break anything or cry. I just stood up, walked into the kitchen, and made a cup of coffee like it was any other Sunday afternoon. Because I had finally stepped out of the fog. And once you do, you start to see the world with terrifying clarity. Every conversation we'd had over the last month played back like surveillance footage. Her sudden burst of kindness. The passive-aggressive comments about trust. The obsessive interest in her phone. The way she avoided intimacy, not with excuses, but with performance. Always too tired to connect, but never too tired to upload a perfectly filtered photo of us with a caption like, "Can't wait to marry my soulmate." I wasn't hurt. Not anymore. I was rewiring. Because something inside me had gone still, like water before it freezes. She wasn't just cheating. She was choreographing a lie so big she expected to dance through life in it. And now I had a choice, rage or precision. I chose precision. I spent the next few hours building a plan, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. I would not be the man who got cheated on and quietly swallowed it. I would not stand next to her at an altar while her friends smirked in matching dresses, drunk off secrets. I would not carry her lies into a marriage built entirely on image. This wasn't about heartbreak. It was about design. I began making lists, venues, guests, vendors, people I could use, assets she didn't know I had access to. I logged into our joint wedding account and started studying every transaction. I called a friend from college who worked security at a high-end AV company. I asked questions he didn't find strange because I framed them like a man organizing a surprise for his bride, which, technically, I was. A rehearsal dinner gift that no one would forget. And all the while, I smiled at her like nothing had changed. Because from this point forward, every moment was an act of war disguised as normalcy. She came home that evening buzzing with bridal joy, talking about how her final fitting was perfect and how she couldn't wait for me to see the dress. I asked to see a photo, and she said it was bad luck. I laughed, nodded, and kissed her on the forehead. She told me she loved me, and I told her the same. Because love is just a word until it becomes evidence. And when the right moment comes, I'll make sure everyone sees it. The rehearsal dinner was flawless on the surface. White linens, soft jazz, polite laughter echoing under chandeliers. Her parents were there, mine too, everyone dressed in practiced joy, sipping overpriced wine and toasting to a future no one realized was already dead. Ashley sat beside me, glowing. That's the word people kept using. She's glowing. Maybe it was the dress. Maybe it was the guilt bleeding through her skin. Either way, she smiled at everyone like her life was a crown she'd earned. She thanked people for coming, told stories about our love, squeezed my hand under the table like we were some fairy tale come true. And I let her. I let her talk. I let her shine. I let her build the pyre. Until it was my turn to speak. They asked for a few words from the groom, some sentimental cliché, something sweet and forgettable. I stood slowly, raised my glass, and looked right at her. Before I toast, I said, "There's something I want to share. A small gift. A highlight reel, really. Because if we're celebrating love, we should all know what love really looks like." She smiled, confused. Then the projector turned on. The room dimmed. The screen flickered to life. And there it was. Footage from her Vegas trip. Audio recordings. Text message screenshots. The chat from the bridesmaid group. "Tell Liam he better bring the good stuff this time." Laughter faded into gasps. People shifted in their seats. Her father's mouth opened, then closed. Her mother went pale. The maid of honor covered her face. Ashley didn't move. Not at first. Then she stood up, slow and careful, like her world was ice cracking beneath her feet. "You're ruining everything," she hissed, voice low. "This isn't how you handle things, isn't it?" I said. "Because this is how you handled things. You danced in a strip club with your ring on, you slept with another man in your bachelorette suite, and you came home and kissed me like nothing happened. And now you want dignity?" She looked around, desperate for a lifeline. "It was just one time," she whispered, too late, too soft. I stepped forward, voice steady. "It wasn't. It never is. One time doesn't have a group chat. One time doesn't come with hotel reservations under fake names. One time doesn't brag about sweaty backseat while planning a wedding paid for by the man you're lying to." "Stop," she snapped, her voice cracking. "You're humiliating me." "No," I said. "You humiliated yourself." I just gave the mirror back. People were frozen, unsure if this was a performance or a breakdown. Ashley's mask was slipping fast. Her lips trembled. Her hands shook. "You don't get to destroy me because of one mistake." "Stop calling it a mistake," I said. "Mistakes are accidents. You planned this. You choreographed it. You brought your friends into it. You thought it was funny. You thought I was stupid." She stared at me, and something dark flickered behind her eyes. "I was bored," she said, like a weapon. "You're boring, Jake. Safe. Predictable. You'd never leave me. That was the point." And there it was. The truth under the betrayal. I stepped closer. That's what makes this perfect. You wanted a husband who wouldn't fight back. You got a strategist instead. You thought loyalty meant weakness. You thought silence meant fear. And now all your lies are burning, right in front of the people whose respect you live for. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't flinch. Not out of cruelty, but because I had nothing left to give her. You want forgiveness? I continued. Earn it. Tell your parents what you did. Tell your bridesmaids how you used them. Tell your lover that the room he booked came with surveillance. Or don't, because I don't care anymore. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to bury what you tried to make me live with. She opened her mouth to say something, but no sound came out. Just air and panic. Her father stood, face red, shaking his head. Her mother sat stone still, as if movement might shatter her entirely. Her friends avoided eye contact. And Ashley just stood there, all the glow drained, all the power gone. I didn't walk out. I didn't throw anything. I just stood and watched. Because that was the final blow. When a woman like her realizes the game is over, but the audience is still watching. The applause had long died, if there was ever any, and the room now sat in a vacuum of breathless discomfort. No one moved. Some pretended to sip their drinks. Others looked down at their plates like the answers were carved into the porcelain. Ashley stood in the center, dress wrinkled, mascara clinging to the corners of her eyes. Her hair, perfect an hour ago, now wilted under the weight of exposure. She tried to gather herself with that brittle composure people mistake for strength, but it crumbled the moment she turned to me and whispered, "You're overreacting." Her voice wavered, less confident now, more cornered. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything," she added, louder this time, reaching for the crowd's sympathy. "We're all human. People make mistakes. You blindsided me in front of everyone over a fling." She searched the faces around her, but none met her gaze. I didn't move. She stepped toward me, almost defiantly. "You think you're so perfect? Like you've never looked at someone else? Like you've never made me feel small?" There it was, the pivot. From guilt to guilt tripping. The desperate attempt to level a battlefield she had already lost. "You don't know what it's like," she hissed, her voice sharper now. "Always having to be the bride, the ideal fiancée, the smiling girlfriend while you drown in your routines. You made everything about plans and structure and control. Maybe I just wanted to feel alive." She blinked hard, then tried again with a different weapon, sentiment. "I loved you, Jake. I did. I still do. You're the only person who ever really saw me." I looked at her for the first time since the footage stopped, and I replied, not loud, not angry, just quiet and direct, each word measured like a scalpel. "You loved what I could offer. Stability, reputation, the illusion of safety while you lived a second life." She shook her head, lip trembling. "You'll never find someone who loves you like I did." I nodded once. "I hope not." She froze. Her mouth opened slightly, like she expected me to take it back. I didn't. I kept going. Because love, to you, is performance. It's leverage. It's a mirror you use to see yourself, never the person holding it. Her hands dropped to her sides. She took a step back, suddenly unsure. "We can fix this," she muttered. "We can go to therapy. We can't." I cut her off. "You want a therapist. I want the truth. And those are not the same thing." Her breath hitched. "You're being cruel." I tilted my head. "No, I'm being accurate. There's a difference. You spent months lying to me with a straight face. That's cruelty. This is clarity." She looked around again, hoping for support, but all she found were stiff backs and tight jaws. People suddenly fascinated by centerpieces or their own cutlery. "Jake," her voice cracked. "Please, don't do this. Don't just leave me like this." And that's when I leaned in slightly, not to comfort, but to finish it. "I'm not leaving you. I'm leaving the idea of you. The version you sold me. The version everyone else bought into. That woman never existed." The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was final. Like the quiet after a verdict. Ashley stood there, eyes wide, chest heaving, surrounded by everything she thought she controlled, now just rubble at her feet. And I stepped back, not to storm off, not to collapse in rage or sadness, but because there was nothing left to say. She'd already said it all, long before tonight, in every lie, every whisper, every moment she thought I wasn't looking. And now everyone else had seen it too. Her parents, her friends, my family, all of them watching her unravel, and me, still, calm, cold. Because sometimes the cruelest thing you can do isn't scream. It's not flinching. It's been 8 months since the night the lights went out on her illusion, and everything she built on borrowed loyalty collapsed in front of the people she used to command with charm. The wedding was canceled, of course, vendors notified, deposits forfeited, silence from her end like a ghost town after the fire. I didn't hear from her for weeks after that night, and when I finally did, it was a single, pathetic message on Instagram, sent at 2:13 a.m. I miss you. I still love you. Please, just talk to me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because by then, the fallout had already begun. Her work, where reputation mattered more than results, quietly let her go, citing internal restructuring. What they meant was, you humiliated yourself in a room full of your CEO's neighbors and your ex-fiancé's clients. Her tight circle of bridesmaids, those loyal queens of filtered selfies and curated weekend brunches, turned on her faster than sharks in blood. Becca deleted her from the group chat and blocked her on everything. One of them posted a cryptic tweet about some people being soulless in white dresses, and it went viral enough to get the message across. Her parents didn't disown her outright, but the silence did. From what I've heard, they haven't returned a single call. Not since the rehearsal dinner turned into a reckoning. The man she cheated with, Liam, ghosted her within a week, probably once he realized she wasn't a fantasy, just a walking liability. She moved out of the apartment we used to share, took a job at a cafe 2 towns over, and deleted her social media for a while. When it came back, it was all quotes about healing, blurry sunset photos, and captions like, "Growth isn't linear." But there were no friends in the pictures. No laughter. Just the echo of someone trying to convince the world, and herself, that she hadn't burned down her own house with a match in each hand. Then, 3 months ago, she showed up. I was at a local grocery store, just grabbing coffee and eggs. She looked different. Not just tired, deflated. Like someone had unzipped her old self and left a shell behind. She walked up to me slowly, like I might bolt. And when she spoke, her voice was fragile, raw in a way I'd never heard before. "Jake," she said, "we were soulmates." And then, quieter, "Please, just talk to me." I looked at her. Not with anger. Not with pity. With the detached stillness of someone staring at an echo. Because she wasn't Ashley anymore. She wasn't the woman I met in college or the one I almost married. That person had drowned the moment she decided to turn love into strategy, to treat loyalty like a leash and intimacy like a stage. This version, the one standing in front of me, was just collateral. The ghost of her own ambition. I said nothing. Just nodded once, slow, like I was acknowledging a stranger who shared an old memory, not a life. She cried. Right there. In the middle of a store aisle, under fluorescent lights and awkward silence. And I walked away. Not because I was heartless. Because I was healed. She had always thought the worst thing I could do was explode. But the truth is, indifference is far more terrifying. Because it means you're not the villain. You're just nothing now. And since then, she's tried again. A letter. A voicemail. Another message. I still believe we're meant to be. Maybe she does. But I don't. Because what we had wasn't love. It was a role she played until a better scene came along. And now the curtain's down. The theater's empty. And she's whispering lines to an audience that's already left the building. Me? I'm good. Better than good. I sleep easy, I laugh often, and I wake up every morning with nothing hidden behind my back. No secrets. No lies. Just peace. That's the real revenge, not that she lost me, but that she finally realized what I was worth when she had nothing left to trade. Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from, and what you would have done if it were your wife.